Going live. It always feels really exciting when you see that little go live button happening. Swirly, swirly, swirly. Hey, Julie Daley.
Hey, Tanya Geisler.
It's funny. We get a chance to talk about once a week, and every time it is just like I get so excited. How lucky is it that I get to talk to you at least once a week? It's amazing.
For all these years too.
For all these years.
Daughters of a different mother.
Right? Right. So welcome everybody watching to In the Spotlight Live with Tanya Geisler. It's my distinct honor and pleasure and privilege to get to co-star these shows with people that I absolutely adore, people whose work I really want you to know about, people whose work I want to shine a spotlight on. So if you're watching us from Facebook, come on over to Crowdcast. That's where you're going to be able to ask any questions of either of us, but really and truly, Julie Daley, man. Julie Daley. Julie and I have been friends for years. She is one of the most important teachers in my life. And I mean teacher in a way that I turn very devotionally to when I'm at a crossroads in many different ways. And so I'm so delighted that you're here today with us, Julie, and you're going to share your wisdom about desire and eros and joy and play and anything else you want to talk about. So welcome, my friend.
Thank you. You know, you truly are one of the most generous human beings I know. Truly. And so for you to do this, to really highlight somebody else, I think really highlights one of the aspects of women that is natural and organic and is oftentimes not spoken about or not seen that often, that women can absolutely be so generous with each other. That's one thing you've taught me. So I am thrilled to be here. And one of the things, you said sharing my wisdom, what I really want to do, and I think you and I talk about this in the title, is ignite that wisdom in the people watching, in the women watching, men watching, right? That we ignite in each other an aliveness, a power, a beauty, a desire, all of it stemming from that life force that moves through us. I mean, that's my work in the world.
And we've been on the air for 2 minutes and I'm almost in tears. Almost in tears. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And tears and what else? I can tell there's something else going on there too.
So you just have to say ignite, right? You just have to say the words ignite. And all of a sudden it's like, how do you do that? I mean, how do you do that, Julie Daley? How do you do that?
I don't know. Other people have talked about me. When they talk about me, it's like, oh yeah, Julie. That seems to be what people experience. There's just, when I talk about this, and I was just on Facebook Live doing a little bit about my new podcast and about eros, and it's like, when I talk about it, I feel it in my loins, in my womb, in my belly, deep in the hara of the body. It's like, it's where that life force just sort of ignites out of. And we're talking about igniting the heart, and the heart is so much bigger than just this space. I mean, the heart, when it's awake and alive, it's vaster than the body. And so for the heart to be ignited, you're talking about your entire being being ignited, and your body is in your entire being. Yes.
But I have had the experience with you about 1 billion times now, where you said you could feel it with me. This is what you do, right? And it's I do love that when people talk about you, they don't use words, they use like gestures. But here's the one I always associate with you.
And you know what that reminds me of? I sometimes see pictures of myself as a little girl. Like,
I'm gonna do it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do it.
I'm going to do it. But, and so like embodied and so full of life, and sometimes meeting that parental, it's too much. No, it's too much. Little girls don't do that. Well, this little girl did until she didn't, because she kept getting that message.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been my journey, is to keep going, wait a minute, what is that I feel inside? What is that I feel inside of me? And one of the beautiful ways that it came back to me was through dance, on the dance floor, through 5 rhythms, 15 years of dance, and finding a safe space to move my body to where my body could remind me of who I really am.
Okay. So,
yeah.
So I also really appreciate that for the last 8 years, you've been trying to get me out onto said dance floor.
Yes.
Unsuccessfully so far.
It will happen.
That's why we have a very safe distance of an entire country between us, because I'm much more of a, this is much more my way of dancing.
That would totally be fine. See, the whole thing is you dance however you want.
Yes. Okay. So hang on. So, little girl, love to finger paint with yellow.
Yeah.
Love to finger paint with lots of embodiment. And then life happens, and then you shelved, pushed down, clamped up that sweet girl. And how did you find your way onto the dance floor?
Serendipitously, of course.
Okay.
I was visiting. I was in New York in 2002 in the fall for a women's conference, New York City, and I was getting ready to fly home back to Berkeley, where I lived at the time, and I was packing up my stuff, and I was at my friend's place, and there was a bookcase right there, and of course, in a very Dan Millman-ish way, the book was like just leaning out a little bit enough so that I went, what is that book hanging there? And I pulled it down, and it was Gabrielle Roth's Maps to Ecstasy. And I went, what is this? This is like almost dropping on my head, to my friend. And she goes, oh, you got to read that book. It's a really good book. And so she let me take it home, and I read it on the plane. I got home to Berkeley, and I was like, I got to go do this thing. I Googled 5 rhythms Berkeley, went to the first class, and this is a really important part of this, because I think the analogy of it it shines a light on what we do in life. Half of me was so excited to be on that dance floor, and I skirted around the edge for a few weeks, right? Half of me was terrified. And it was the whole time, it was like this, I gotta leave, gotta stay, gotta leave, gotta stay. And just like something in the gotta stay one long enough to where I realized, actually, nobody's paying any attention to me. Right. They're just dancing themselves. Why am I worried about it? And I started to just let the joy come. Let the yellow come back, right? Let the joy of moving my body, because the body remembered everything. It remembered what it was like to be young and alive, and know that the trees were talking to me, and know that love was everywhere, even though the adults around me had forgotten. The body was like, remember. And so over 15 years, the dance floor was a way to ignite my desire, ignite the all of the emotions in me that had been suppressed, but ultimately it ignite this erotic life force. And the thing I want to say about that is Eros is so much bigger than what we claim it to be, right? We talk about the erotic and everybody thinks it's just sex. It's just erotica. It's just porn. It's just this small thing. And then we sort of go, ooh, I don't know that I want to know that that's in me, because I don't really know what it's going to do. No, it's life.
Right. Okay. Sideways step here for a second, because I want to make sure that people listening didn't hear or didn't make the leap that the only way we can access a sense of embodiment or a sense of this deeper awareness is on the dance floor, or is even in something that is, necessarily physical in nature. That's one way that you found your orientation, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Have you experienced, and we gotta talk about Eros, but have you experienced other portals and other people that you've worked with, or in these conversations?
Sure.
How else have people accessed it?
So I'll just say first how I've accessed it. It's also accessed it in Vipassana meditation, silent retreat that I've done anywhere between 5 days to 9 days. not only sitting on the cushion, that energy starting to fire up. In the dreams I had during the one in particular, the 9-day silent retreat dreams where I had were very clearly that erotic energy was beginning to move through my channels. And I think just coming down into a place of silence and peacefulness allowed me to begin to sense again what was going on in my body through painting, through sex, you know, through even just being with a partner, and being so with that partner that, of course, that which is the same between us, which is this life force, begins to see itself. You know, being in nature. You know, when I was last summer, I was on the island, the big island of Hawaii, on the volcano. She made it very clear that the same volcano that she is in me. Standing on the peat in Ireland, the sponginess of the soil, it was like a sensuality that was like, oh, wow. I didn't know the earth could be so soft under my feet. And again, that's the body showing us what we've forgotten. The body's in relationship to everything, to others, to self, to the earth, to nature, to animals. And right now, like with you, just looking in your eyes, seeing your smile, it's like, there it is again. It's everything is showing us and reminding us of what we are.
If we are awake to it or allow ourselves to be awake to it, correct?
Well, it's always showing us. It doesn't change whether or not it shows us, depending upon our awakeness. When we, like for me, when I got shut down as a little girl, I stopped connecting in the way that I did because it was too painful. I made a choice that I would believe the powers to be who were parents and teachers. I would believe the story they were telling me rather than believe the story I knew was true. And I think we cut ourselves off. I'll just say I did. And I've seen that with clients I work with as a coach. And in the courses I teach, we cut ourselves off because it's too painful to remember what we can't live, what we think we can't live.
Yeah. And that's that same tension it feels like shows up. You walking around the dance floor, the push, the pull, the 9-day silent meditation retreat that would terrify me to no end. Right? Like, what's on the other side of that? Yeah, beautiful.
One other place I want to just mention quickly. I did an awakening coaching training a few years back. And one of the modalities was this thing called radical release. And this just popped into, just want to say this because it's important. And it's where I work with my clients in this way, but where in the training, we worked with each other to do these radical releases of stuck energy. And it was intense, let me tell you. I won't lie, it was intense because as when you're in a training like that, you're really learning how to do it so that you can offer it. And really intense energies, what you do is you feel them all the way to a 10 out of 10. And this was something developed by Arjuna Arda. And after doing that for like an hour, everything had been cleaned out of me. Everything had been cleaned out of me. I was so empty. And what I realized was that force just like vibrating in me, which is the force that obviously keeps me alive. And someday when I die, that vibration will stop. Right? That is the force that I am, and it's in a body. So also by feeling your emotions, feeling what's been stuck, feeling anger from all the way to a 10 out of 10, letting yourself have that human experience is another way you wake up. Okay.
We'll have another question, but are you getting a really bad echo?
No.
Okay. Just over here.
Should I do something?
No, you're fine. So yesterday, I'll just tell you this. I had this moment where I looked at. I love these conversations. It feels super intimate, and I'm happy to share this. I looked, for whatever reason, I looked online to my address, and I saw a picture of my house on Google, which of course is like, I should have it removed. Anyway, I saw it and I recognized that the picture was taken 3 years ago. I recognized that because our neighbors we've done some work to our house and it looks different. And I realized, oh my God, that was 3 years ago. Did I say 10 years ago? 3 years ago. It's 3 years ago. My kid was 10. And I said to myself, that was a blink ago. That was a blink. And then I realized in another blink, she'll be 16. And in 2 blinks, she'll be 19. And I just sat there, and Julie, you know that this is a bit of a season that I'm going through right now. And I just said out loud, I'm sad. I am so sad about that. Woo! And it's like that experience of just allowing myself to feel like the 8 of the 10, because I have things to do. And of course. Yeah. I love that 8. And you're right. There was such an awakeness, and not about trying to get past or reframe anything, but yeah, there was just this massive, full experience of, I didn't know what to name it, because at that point, the naming of it made it not sad. It made it something else. And I hadn't realized that that's really also what we're talking about here. And so, now, of course, I went immediately to the doing. And I called my husband. I said, you know, this sexy little weekend that we have planned for ourselves in Chicago, we're bringing the kid. That's what we're doing. So that's what happens. I go to the doing, and you know, that'll somehow stop time. You know how that goes. Anyway, I hadn't realized that that's what that was. And so thank you for bringing some more.
Yeah.
And you're always that person for me. You're always that person who's like, all right, can you feel it a little bit more? And I go, no, I'm too busy, too much stuff, gotta. And you're like, can you just feel it more? And then I said, okay, whatever you want. And then I do. And then we cry or we laugh or we do whatever we do. And it's a beautiful thing. And I thank you for that. Tell me about, because I am curious about this. It feels a little trite, but I am really curious about this. Where does the imposter complex, so how does the imposter complex intersect with this conversation that you're having with other people about eros, about desire, about full expressions? How does it show up?
You know, it's interesting because there's a lot of directions I could go with that. First of all, the first thing that came into my mind is me as a little girl, knowing who I was. And then suddenly other people saying, that's not going to be allowed. Not in those words, but you know, no. So then it's like, oh, who am I supposed to be then? Oh, let me look around. Oh, that's how they want me to be. Okay. Oh, that's how I should see myself. Oh, that's how I should. Okay. There's the imposter. Let me take that mask. Let me take that costume. Let me put it right on here. Okay. Now I'm who I'm supposed to be. But inside is the right? Yeah. Right. There's the imposter right there. And around eros, you know, I think just right off the bat, I'll say it from my own experience. I am a really sensual, sexual woman. And I have tried to deny that almost my whole life. Not only because of experiences I had that caused that to be painful in some ways, but just because of what the culture tells us that means about women if you're that way. Right? So, or again, I will pretend to be something else so that I am more palatable to a society and culture that does not like the wildness of the feminine. That does not like the true expression of the female body. However that is for each woman, you know, it's different for each woman. Whether you're heterosexual, homosexual, transgender, whatever, the expression is unique to you. But the whole point is that your expression is that life force moving through you. That's your true expression. And anything else you do to cover that up is truly I was going to say an imposter, but is that a word, imposterized? Imposterized way of being. Right.
Yeah.
It's just not real. It's not true. And then we become so afraid of the truth of ourselves that we believe the voice of the imposter, and it's dysfunctional. And we believe it because we become so afraid of what we've forgotten we are, because it's powerful.
I have never asked this question of anybody else, and I've never actually thought, I've never thought it before for myself either. In the work that you've done, we are so terrified of this true self that we are. Has anybody ever got to the pearl of who they are and not liked who they've been? Have you ever experienced that?
Well, let me phrase it this way. First of all, go through a lot of layers that you've been trying to hide that aren't particularly nice. Mm-hmm. We all have that. We all have lots of shadow, right? So I would be disingenuous if I said, oh, no, it's just this lovely journey to this light self. Lots of shadow in us. And if we are the everything in a human body, we literally are the everything in a human body.
Right.
But what I've experienced myself and in others is that when you touch into the truth, it's not even a question of whether you're comfortable with it. Right. The truth doesn't, it's not duality. It just is. And does that make sense? Mm-hmm. It just is. There isn't, and it doesn't even have a problem with the imposter. Mm-hmm. Really, the imposter is the only one that has a problem with the imposter. Yeah. Which I know you talk about.
Yeah.
And I talk about it in my own way, right? So I think that's a key point, is that when you get to the truth, it's just the truth.
Just the truth.
Like when you're little. Like when you're little, you're just the truth. You're just sitting there going, what are all these adults talking about? They're crazy. Mm-hmm. Why are they thinking these things? That's not what I see. Mm-hmm. And you see that in your kids when they're little, right? They're just the truth. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's more of as you describe it, the truth feels like a lightness, like what exists without the veils and the shrouds and the guardedness and I remember when my kid was in grade 1 or 2, her teacher was fascinated by the work that I did. And he asked me to come in and explain to kids what it was that I did as a leadership coach. And I was basically like, people pay me good sums of money to get back to where you are. That's really what it is. They're like, trying to like walk these kids through values work. They're like, I want to feel good. I want to play. I want to feel free. And we're like, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ooh. I don't know what it is that I want. Okay, so we talk a lot about what Eros isn't. So say more about what Eros is, because you have a lot to say about Eros, so much so that you're going to have a podcast devoted to Eros. So tell me that.
Part of it is a discovery process, because I have a friend who did a film about the feminine called As She Is. It's a beautiful film. Look it up and watch it. But the question was, what is the feminine? And one of the things that she has said is that the feminine has been hidden. She hasn't been gone. She's just been hidden. And as I've been exploring Eros in this way, I realize that a lot of what I hope to be uncovering is just what's been hidden. It's always been here, but there is a context that is not, there's no context for something that I see in our everyday culture. And that is this wild, instinctual nature that is life, wanting to express itself. And I've moved and danced around it, like with my work with creativity, with the heart, like, when I'm writing it Unabashedly Female about the sensuousness of life. But the greater context of what happens when women and men actually wake up in their bodies. Not a waking up out of, like, out into a transcendence, you know, oh, now I'm light and I'm God, and you know, that's one way to wake up. But the waking up down of consciousness and light down into the cells of the body, so that the body realizes, wakes back up. I mean, each cell of the body has the light of the divine in it. I once was in meditation, and all of my awareness went into one vaginal cell. And I was suddenly in a vaginal cell, and I could feel that the cell knows its function. Every cell knows what it is, and it's alive, unless it gets cut off. I don't know this part for sure, but it's where our consciousness gets cut off from the cells, and I think that's where illness comes in. And so this waking up of the body consciousness is, to me, what is happening. But you don't hear a lot of talk about it. You hear it in spiritual circles, some of them. But it's happening. I talk to women, and it's happening in their bodies, and they don't know what to do with it. There's a kind of arousal that we feel all over. And when you've been living much of your life in a sort of numb state, suddenly it's like, what's happening inside of me? And so the overarching desire is to have conversations where we start to go, oh, we start to link together those things that have been hidden and not talked about, because they haven't, because they're part of the feminine aspect of life, and because it hasn't been safe to be that alive, that vibrant, that powerful in a woman's body. And I would say in a man's body too.
Damn.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I want to make sure that everybody else has a chance to ask their questions. Please hit the questions, answer the orange button, wherever you may be, or pop it in the chat. We'll find it. Damn, woman. You and I, when we were talking about this conversation, Julie, you said something about our ancestral lineage and that ancestral lineage of intuition, and how there's a way in which spirituality has, what's the word that you would have used for that? It wasn't cut off, but there was like a bit of a fissure.
Yeah, I use severed for my instincts in a way. Severed
from your instincts. Is that the same rationale? Like, what's that about?
I can only I'll speak to it in my own lineage. I can look back on the women on my mother's line, because I knew this line much better than my father's line. Powerful women, artists, powerful, psychic, healers, and at the same time, all really well learned in how to shut off their power and how to pass that shutting off down the line. And I sense out of a kind of safety, like, well, this wasn't safe for me, so I'm going to make sure that you stay safe. Right. You're going to cut off your own. And I'm going to teach you how to do that. Right. And I think one of the things that's happening right now is that we are healing a lot of that ancestral suffering and unconsciousness the more we wake up. I was recently in Costa Rica for a women's retreat, and one of the women there, Brenda Salgado, does some amazing work in this realm, but we talked a lot about the ancestral lines and actually going back and calling in your ancestors in a very respectful, reverential way as you do this kind of work, that you realize that they're with you. I think in all the spiritual work I've done, there's been a lot about karma and my past lives, but what I become more aware of is the ancestral line as well. You know, if we're talking about the body, the cells carry this ancestral information. And so as the cells wake up in the body, it's healing not only this physical body, but it's also healing those genetic lines. And, you know, I'm talking about that from my own personal experience. I'm not an expert in that, but the main thing I want to really get across is that everything I really talk about is from my own personal experience.
Yeah.
And that seems to be what I am supposed to do or need to do in this lifetime myself.
That's clear. Thank you, Julie. Thank you for being here in this conversation, and rich and delicious and wide and deep and powerful. Oh my God.
No questions, huh?
JulieDaley.com is where you're going to find Julie. The podcast is coming. When is the podcast going to be coming, Julie?
Well, I'm working on the first few episodes right now, and I'm going to just release them, I think, when I have 3 or 4, so that I have a little cluster of them.
Perfect.
So it'll be in the next few weeks.
And how do you work with people right now? How can people have access to the awakening work that you're doing?
One-on-one coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I do one-on-one coaching. And then I have 2 self-study programs. One is Belonging, which is a 21-day course where you receive something each day and you work through some really wonderful exercises on learning what keeps you from feeling a sense of belonging. The other one is Becoming a Force of Nature, which is a 12-month study program. You get a 24-something page PDF each month with lots of experiential exercises. So there's 12 of those, one a month, and it comes from the Stanford work that I teach, as well as my own experience of awakening the feminine within my own body. Those are the 2 ways. And then the one-on-one coaching.
Becoming a Force of Nature, I've experienced that. It's we could talk for weeks about the power of that. Each exercises, the experiences that you take us through. Amazing. Amazing work. Thank you for being here, my friend.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. I love you. And again, thanks for your generosity and your wisdom and how you carry yourself in the world.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
For anybody who's not been here before, please press the follow button so you'll find out when I've got other In the Spotlights coming up. I think the next one I'm missing this Thursday. Hi, Brandy. Thank you, honey, for being here. Next Thursday, I'm going to have a different conversation. There are always different conversations with Michelle Ward and Laura Sims talking about launching businesses, which is its own kind of awakening in and of itself, and a different kind of expression of desire, to be certain. Thank you, Julie, for your deep wisdom, your friendship, your presence, the work you're putting out in the world, and the beaming light of love that you are.
Thanks, Tanya.
Thanks, everyone, for being
here. Bye,
here.
everybody. Thank you.
Bye.